The name of the story, the Crescent Hotel, the doctor who never left. They call it America's most haunted hotel. Sitting high above Eureka Springs, Arkansas, the Crescent Hotel looks beautiful, but beauty can be a disguise. Behind its walls hides a nightmare that began with one man, Dr. Norman Baker. In the 1930s, Baker, a showman, not a real doctor, turned the hotel into a miracle cancer hospital. He wore lavender suits, drove purple cars, and promised cures without surgery or pain. Desperate patients flooded in, but instead of healing, they were injected with strange purple liquids and locked away in silence. Locals began hearing screams echoing through the hills at night. Some patients were never seen again. When authorities finally raided the place, they uncovered something monstrous.
No.
In the basement, a secret morgue filled with hundreds of preserved body parts, each jar labeled with Baker's careful handwriting. The doctor fled before he could be caught, but something of him stayed behind. When the hotel reopened years later, guests reported seeing a man in a lavender suit walking the halls at night. Lights flicker, doors slam, whispers call out, "Help me," from empty rooms. Down in the old morgue, cameras die, cold hands grab your shoulders, and just before the lights go out, people swear they see him.
This can't be real.
A tall figure smiling in the dark, holding a syringe. Every night at 3:03 a.m., the lights in the basement turn on by themselves, even when the power is cut. And if you dare whisper,
"What do you want?"
"Dr. Baker, are you here?" you might hear his soft voice behind you. Your treatment is ready. The name of story, the Wawona's last breath, the tree that watched. This is the story of the Wawona tree, a 2,300-year-old giant sequoia in Yosemite. It was an ancient sentinel, until mankind sliced a road right through its base in 1881. It stood there, wounded for decades, a living tunnel, a symbol of nature violated, and all that time, it watched. Our horror begins with Elias, a ranger assigned to monitor the Wawona in the late 1960s. Elias wasn't afraid of the wilderness. He was afraid of the silence around the tree. He wrote in his journal that on calm nights, the air felt thick and heavy, and the immense wood of the tree seemed to absorb all sound. He swore the air inside the tunnel wasn't just cold, it was desperate. He believed every person who drove through, every snapshot taken, had left a psychic stain of human frivolity and noise. And all that noise was trapped, muffled and screaming, inside the wood's core. The true panic began just before the collapse. Elias reported that the tunnel entrance was coating itself in a dark, oily, viscous sap that oozed from the inner cuts. This wasn't natural sap. It smelled like copper and old blood. And sometimes he'd find handprints, tiny, contorted adult prints, pressed deep into the sticky sap, prints that crawled along the wall, even though no one had touched the tree. One foggy night, Elias drove through the tunnel, and his headlights caught a fleeting image. Standing inside the tunnel, pressed against the wet wood, was the spectral form of a man. Not translucent, but a solid figure whose clothes seemed to be slowly dissolving into the tree's surface, his face fixed in a silent, agonizing scream. Elias didn't look back. He just drove. On a snowy morning in February 1969, the Wawona tree finally fell. It didn't break or split. It simply buckled under the weight of the snow and its own decay. When the cleanup crew arrived, they found something unsettling. The massive, broken segments of the wood had twisted, as if the ancient tree had used its final energy to seal the passage completely closed. They found Elias's abandoned Jeep nearby, its windows frosted over. Elias himself was gone. He didn't vanish in the storm. He vanished at the sight of the tree's last, shuddering moment. The demolition team sawed the enormous segments of the trunk for removal, and as they cut, the workers swore they heard it, a distinct, low-frequency groaning that didn't sound like wood splitting, but like lungs expanding. And here is the final, inescapable curiosity. The log sections they took away to the lumber yard were coated in the dark sap. Workers who pressed their ears to the raw, weeping wood claimed they could still hear muffled, rhythmic heartbeats. The spirit of the ancient tree didn't just reclaim its wood. It sealed the violation, took the ghosts that had been trapped inside, and took its final witness to keep the silent secret of the forest forever beating in the darkness. The name of the story, Villisca Axe Murder House. The house that never forgets. In the quiet town of Villisca, Iowa, sits a modest wooden house with a dark history that still chills visitors today. On a night in 1912, tragedy struck inside these walls. 8 people were brutally murdered, 6 members of the Moore family, and 2 young house guests. The killer was never caught, and some say the house itself has never forgiven. Decades later, guests report footsteps pacing empty hallways, doors slamming shut without warning, and whispers echoing through the dark rooms. Some wake to find cold hands brushing their faces, or feeling a presence standing silently at the foot of their bed. The most unsettling activity seems to revolve around the children's room. Visitors describe shadowy figures moving in the corners of their eyes, giggling, then screaming. Investigators claim to capture orbs floating in the hallways, faint voices calling names, and glimpses of a man holding an axe, lurking in the background. But the house's power is patient. It doesn't need to rush. At exactly 12:15 a.m., the time the murders began, guests report hearing the house creak and breathe as if alive, walls pulsating like a heartbeat. Some who spend the night too long wake to find their own names scratched into the walls, or photographs of themselves left in the children's room, as if the house is marking its next victims. And the creepiest part, even those who leave sometimes feel they are being followed. Whispers in the night, shadows in their peripheral vision, objects inexplicably moved. Because the Villisca Axe Murder House doesn't just haunt the living, it hunts them, patient, eternal, and never forgetting the faces of those who dare to enter. So, if you ever find yourself on this quiet street in Iowa, standing outside the house, remember, it's not just history that lingers within. It's watching, waiting, and it may decide your story isn't finished yet.